Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining and tuning in. My name is Jess Sherman. I am a nutritionist, author of Raising Resilience. And I have a guest with me today. Her name is Meghann. Hi, Meghann.
Hi.
Hi. So Meghann is mom of 5, and I invited her on to talk about her experience because one of the things we're doing in the Raising Resilience community and what I'm doing around my book is trying to raise awareness around the connection between what and how we feed our kids and how they feel and how they function in the world and their overall health, and trying to bring some real tangible strategies to parents to get them to use food constructively and strategically in simple ways, not always very complicated ways, but some simple things that you can do. So Meghann has graciously agreed to spend some time with us, taking out from her very busy, full life. Like I say, she has 5 children. 10 months is the youngest and 11 is the oldest. So she's got a lot of experience to share with us. And we're going to just dive into your story, Meghann. And what prompted you what was life like and prompted you to be like, we need to make a change. We need to figure this out. What happened?
Yeah, well, I at the time I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and actually I did have my 3rd baby, was just brand new. And my 4-year-old was having really pussy eyes, and I thought that they were eye infections. I thought it was pink eye. And so I kept treating for that, but it kept coming back. And then my mother-in-law said that when my husband was the same age, he had the same thing. And she had brought him to a natural path. And he had some food intolerances. And she was able to treat those allergies with eliminating some foods. And so I was really resistant because I didn't want to go in and learn that he was intolerant to wheat and dairy. It's always wheat and dairy and eggs, you know?
Yeah. And then what do you do? Oh my God. Yeah.
I just didn't feel like I could handle it, you know? And, but eventually the other thing that was kind of stirring in the back of me was that my daughter that winter, she got 5 ear infections in 6 months. And the last ear infection was not cleared up with 2 bouts of antibiotics. And that really scared me. And so I also knew I had enough awareness to know that food could potentially be affecting her. And so I thought, okay, I'll do it. And actually my mother-in-law really generously offered to pay for the initial fee on that first visit. So I was like, okay, how can I say no? I'll go, we'll go see. So
push through the fear.
Yeah. Yeah. So we went. So that's how I started.
Awesome. And so it's nice that you had that support around you. Some people are like, they're looked at like they're totally crazy when they suggest that food, like where they start to think that food might be part of the situation. But you had a lot of support with that, so that's awesome. And so you found out that there were some intolerances, and did you make some changes?
Yeah, so we had William tested first, and we found out that he was intolerant to cow dairy and soy. And those are the major 2 for him, actually, cow dairy and soy. And so I left there feeling like the naturopath, he was so wonderful. His name was Dr. Don Warren. He's retired now. But he said, you know, take your time, give yourself a week, but I'm really kind of an all or nothing kind of gal. And so afterwards, when I knew this, I was like, oh no, like I can't feed him these things because I felt like I was feeding him poison. You know, if these things are not agreeing with him, well, then I just can't feed him these things. And so I kind of started right away. And so we got in the car. He's like, Mommy, can I have some crackers? I was like, no, buddy, you can't have those crackers. There's some things that Dr. Warren said you couldn't eat. And he's like, okay, well, can I have some cheese? And I said, buddy, we can't have that either. And then he said, well, what can I have? And I thought, that's how we have to think about this. Like, instead of thinking about all the things that you can't have, let's make a list of the things that you can have. And so just even in the car on the way home, we started naming the things that I knew we could have: fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. And you know, I could start there. So that's kind of how we got started with him.
Yeah, that's such an important thing, Meghann, that you learned really early on, is that it's not about restricting food. It's about nourishing our kids and giving them the foods that support their bodies, right? But once you start on this journey, I think what you were finding out is it starts you thinking about what's nourishing your kids in a bit of a different way. So really nice reframing that you did for for him right from the
Well, it was
get-go.
all inspired by him. So that was great.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And was he pretty compliant with it? Like, did he come around?
He was, but he's an easygoing guy. So the next part of my story is that I brought my daughter in.
Okay.
And she still does, but at the time, a very strong personality, at least strong-willed, you know, and when I went in, we found out that she was intolerant to dairy and sugar. And I think I started to cry because I was like she was such a carb, like she loves sugar, you know. She was the kind of little girl who she would eat her dessert and then go to everybody at the table and like get a bite of their dessert too, you know. Like she loved her sweets. And so and just because her temperament and her personality was so strong, I was like, this is going to be horrible. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But we started, you know, and I mean, it was a lot easier because William was so compliant, and so I was just feeding them kind of the same things, and we had to cut out a lot of the things with the refined sugars anyway, because a lot of those things also have dairy and also have soy in them. Yeah. So it was a little bit easier. And anyways, we started our journey with her.
And was there pushback?
There was a little bit, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, because we ended up changing all of our diets. Like eventually I also was tested and I was intolerant to sugar. And so we just kind of did it as a family. And I know we haven't gotten to this question yet, but when I started to see the results of like the changes, it was easier to deal with the pushback than it was to deal with the consequences of eating those things. Okay.
Yeah, really good. I just wanted to pick up on that one thing that you just said. Another really important insight is that it's so much easier to do this as a family. Mm-hmm. And if you address the whole thing as, hey guys, we're just all going to get healthier.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to bring your kids on board. Let's get into what you noticed, because once you start to see changes, it becomes easier to stick to them. And it also, as you know, you have an 11-year-old, it's also easier to talk to your kids around, you know, how food affects their health and bring their awareness to it when they get older. So what did you start to notice? What did you start to see?
Well, with William, the results were shocking within 5 days. He would wake up in the morning and he would kind of take 45 minutes to ungrump. That's what I used to call it. Oh, William just needs to ungrump. But he started, within 5 days, he was waking up and he had like a sparkle in his eye. And he was like, good morning, mommy. And I was like, oh, good morning. You know, he was happy. The dark circles under his eyes disappeared. He was also very, very shy. And whenever we walked into a new environment, he would take, you know, at least 20 minutes. That way he needed to be really close to me, even if we were with family and like grandparents, like extended family. And on that set, so we started maybe like on a Monday or Tuesday. By Saturday, we went to meet with my husband's family, and even my mother-in-law noticed, like he walked in and he could make eye contact. He was like saying hello. I mean, he was still shy, but he was saying hi, and he went off to play like really quickly, you know. And so I just wasn't expecting, those aren't the reasons I brought him in, but all of a sudden these other things were like, wow, like there's a change in him. I could see the change in him.
So this is within 5 days of taking out soy and dairy for him?
Yeah.
Soy and cow's dairy. Yeah. And it's a really nice example of what I'm talking about in my book and in my community around when you improve the health of the body, you improve your body's ability to handle stress.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. You're clearing a lot of stress from inside the body, which allows a child to deal with the stress of being in a new environment, or, you know, feeling shy, or that sort of thing. So it's really, really nice example of that. Anything else you noticed?
With
his eyes?
Pardon?
He was the one
that did clear up. Yeah, the allergies did clear up. He also had some eczema that cleared up. But those seem like such minor things after these other things that I was were unexpected, you know. And with him, like I could really tell when, still to this day, if he has something he shouldn't have, like the next day we could tell. And that's been really great because, you know, sometimes we do make an exception. Like we were just on vacation and we went out for ice cream one night. Well, even the kids said to me, I'm pretty sure there's no other kid who's as excited about ice cream as we are, Mommy, because we don't ever get to have this. And so I was like, yes, this is a very special treat. But the next day when they were feeling kind of groggy, I could say, this is why we don't do this very often.
Yeah.
Right?
Did the same, like, was it as extreme? So you've been off of this stuff for a while, a few years now, right?
Yeah, 7 years.
And so, yeah. So, and when he had the ice cream, was his reaction back to what he was when he was 2, or was it?
I mean, he wasn't getting like pussy eyes. He was just kind of like grumpy, a little bit grumpy. I could see it under his eyes, he was just a little shorter than he normally is, not the same amount of patience with his siblings,
Yeah.
But it wasn't as bad as when we're constantly eating the things, but I like doing that every now and then, like just giving them a little bit, or if it happens that we're out and, or maybe sometimes we're not even aware that there's something he shouldn't have. And then he has it. And then we notice for the few days that he's not quite himself. And I'm like, I think you had, but now he comes to me, he's like, I think I might've eaten something I shouldn't have eaten. Like he recognizes in himself those signs, and he'll often resist himself. Like he's really good. My daughter.
Well, let's talk about your daughter in just a second, but it's really nice to hear that it's really just all about awareness, right? It's about when your kid throws a fit or a tantrum or is grumpy or whatever, you can start to make the connections and understand what's happening in their bodies a little bit better, rather than just reacting to the situation, right? Now that you have this insight. And I also think it's really great. I also think it's good to, like you're saying, test it out every now and then. And what I think you found is that you've bought yourself some wiggle room, right? Yes. So you were really strict about it for a while, and that sort of raised his resilience and emptied his glass and bought you some wiggle room because his body was getting healthier. Yes. And now it's still not the best thing for him, but the reaction isn't quite as severe. So that's going to be really important when he turns into a teenager, or starts to have control over his own choices, and needs to know when it's worth it and when it's not.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's talk about your daughter. How did that go?
Yeah. Oh, it was the progress with her was a lot slower. We were like a month in, and I was like, I don't know if I really noticed a change, but my natural path noticed a change, because when I first went to see him, about her, I said to him, like, I fear for our relationship. I fear for our relationship, like, especially like if I'm dealing with this now with her at 2, like what's going to happen when she's 13, because she was so strong-willed, and she would just scream and scream and scream. And I really felt like a failure as a mother to her, because with William, I could pick him up. If he was sad, I could pick him up. I could console him. Like she didn't want that, but she wanted me, but she didn't want me. And she was just so, so not well. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, anyway, she had this really, really strong temperament.
And a little bit more edgy.
There was a lot more fits and a lot more crying and a lot more yelling, and it was really hard. And I lost patience with her a lot more, because I just felt like, what do you want? Like I can't please you, and she's just 2, but he noticed. He's like, I know she's different. I know there's something going on because you're speaking about her differently. Mm-hmm. And I was more at peace, and she had just mellowed out, and then all of her goodness, like all of this good things about being strong-willed, were coming to the surface, like she's creative, and she's and she's independent, and she figures out how to do what she wants to do, and she wasn't being as sneaky or that's what we noticed kind of later on, like when she has something she's not supposed to have. Oftentimes we see that she gets a little bit sneaky, but when she's doing really well, she doesn't do that, she's a lot more upfront and honest, and anyway.
That, Meghann, that just gave me shivers. Because what you're describing is like, what I think about all children is that they hold such boatloads of potential, every single one of them. Yeah. But some of them, we just need to soften the edges. We just need to relieve their stress a little bit more. And then all of what is seen as bad things, like, what you're describing, actually turn into good things.
Yes. Yeah.
When they can control them.
Yes.
Right. And so, taking out the stressors that were the food related stressors in her body allowed that to come out. That just, gives me
it just allows them to be the best version of themselves. Right. And it's, yeah, it's so like, we go to the naturopath and it's expensive for our family of 7 now to go to the naturopath. But every time we pay that bill and Nick and I get in the car again, we're like, yeah, but where would our life be if we weren't on this journey, if we hadn't done this? There's peace in our home that wouldn't be there otherwise, because I'm not even talking about my own journey and like I saw how food was affecting me, and really, I found a lot more balance and just with like PMS and different things like in my own life, that I was able to stabilize some of those things through food and homeopathy. And there's more peace. We get to enjoy our children at their best. We get to see and just enjoy one another, and I think that's what keeps me motivated and keeps me going, is that, I'm not spending my time being frustrated or annoyed with their behaviors, because they're not there, those behaviors. We can have conversations about things, and anyways, it's just,
I think that kind of family peace comes from understanding, right? Mm-hmm. Understanding what makes each one of them tick.
Yeah.
Right. And this piece of the puzzle of food is one that is very misunderstood, I think, from a lot of people. Like, a lot of people they'll go into behavior modification, or they'll go into strategies for consequences or discipline or that sort of thing. But this one piece of food and how food can add to the body's stress load and interfere with your ability to manage your stress response and your ability to self-regulate, and influence your mood and your behavior and your physical body, is very misunderstood, and it's missed for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, but it's weird that it's missed, because this is what we're fueling our bodies with. It makes sense that the kind of fuel we put into our body is going to affect our body, right? Like, and on all the different parts of it. But but I know I was there too.
Anything else you want to say about your journey and what you've learned about food?
Yeah, I guess I want to encourage people. It feels really hard at the beginning, but I think if you can get through a month, then you got it figured out. Like, if you can just give yourself a month, and then you'll see the difference. And then the motivator becomes, like, for me, it was easier to make the sacrifice, which really wasn't a sacrifice, it was a gift, to my family, than to not, and then deal with the consequences of not eating this way, And it did change some of our relationships with some people, and it was hard for our families, like our extended families and everything. But they got to start enjoying our little people in new ways too, when some of the fog was lifted up, and they could just shine. So I hope that our story can be an encouragement to others.
Amazing. It's very encouraging. It's really, really lovely to hear. Awesome. Meghann, thank you. Thank you so much. I think your story is going to inspire a lot of families to give this a try. I really appreciate how you said it was scary at first, like you didn't even want to know. Yes. At first, because it's like, I don't want you to tell me I have to do something that I can't do. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But when you start digging in and you start to find strategies one step at a time, it takes you to some pretty amazing places. Hi.
I'm pretty sure this guy's been eating things he shouldn't be eating.
Thank you, Meghann. Let's leave it there. But thank you so much for taking the time to share your story.
Thank you.